moment Sarah dropped the tray, every crystal glass in the restaurant shattered. But the sound that froze the room was the billionaire's mother collapsing in her wheelchair. Adrian Vale caught elderly Evelyn before she struck the floor. Before the doctor could reach her, Sarah pushed through the crowd, checked Evelyn's pulse, and faced the man in the black suit. "Give me a roof for 1 week," the homeless waitress said. "I'll save your mother." If you believe kindness can appear in the most unexpected person, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Loyal Hearts. Tell us where you're watching from, because another Sarah may be waiting for someone to believe her. Adrian stared at her in disbelief. Sarah's white shirt was wrinkled, her apron stained with coffee, and rainwater darkened her worn shoes. The manager fired her for touching a guest, but Sarah did not move. Evelyn was not simply fainting. Her pulse was irregular, her skin cold, and the blue beneath her fingernails signaled failing circulation. The doctor checked again, and his face changed. Evelyn was rushed to the hospital, where specialists confirmed a rhythm disorder doctors had missed. Had Sarah waited 10 more minutes, Evelyn might never have opened her eyes. Adrian found Sarah outside the emergency entrance near midnight, sitting beneath an awning with a grocery bag holding everything she owned. He demanded to know how a homeless waitress had recognized what doctors overlooked. Sarah admitted she had once studied nursing. A stroke had left her hard-working mother unable to speak or walk. Sarah abandoned school to care for her, and the medical bills consumed their apartment, savings, and possessions. When her mother died, Sarah was left with debt, no degree, and nowhere to go. She slept in stations and worked restaurant shifts while pretending she had a home. For 3 years, danger had lived beside her mother's bed, and Sarah had learned to notice its smallest signs. Adrian offered money, but Sarah refused. Cash would disappear into motel rooms and meals. She needed 7 nights, a clean bed, and Evelyn's medical records. The hospital planned to implant a device, but Sarah suspected another cause. Adrian doubted her, yet Evelyn asked him to trust her. He brought Sarah to the Vale estate and gave her a room near the kitchen. Sarah entered the mansion carrying her belongings in a torn paper bag. The staff whispered about her. Adrian's fiancée, Celeste, accused her of chasing money and ordered the silver locked away. Sarah endured every insult because each night she recorded Evelyn's pulse, meals, medicine, and dizziness. She noticed the attacks often came after a newly prescribed heart pill. The label looked correct, but the tablets had a different shape from those pictured in Evelyn's chart. Adrian dismissed the difference. Celeste laughed and asked whether sleeping in shelters had made Sarah a pharmacist. On the 4th night, Sarah woke to breaking glass. She ran into Evelyn's room and found her struggling to breathe. The emergency button was disconnected and pills covered the carpet. Sarah called for help, kept Evelyn conscious, and used the oxygen equipment beside the bed. When Adrian rushed in, Sarah held a tablet beneath the lamp. Its markings did not match the prescribed medicine. Someone had replaced Evelyn's pills. Celeste claimed Sarah had planted them to appear heroic. Security footage showed Sarah entering Evelyn's room, and Adrian became suspicious. He asked Sarah to leave until the police finished investigating. She stood in the hallway with her paper bag while the staff watched, but instead of begging for herself, she begged him not to let Evelyn take another pill from that bottle. Adrian turned away. With 2 promised nights remaining, Sarah stepped into the rain. She could have disappeared, but she remembered her mother lying helpless while people ignored small warnings. Sarah walked 3 miles to the pharmacy named on the bottle. The pharmacist checked the serial number and confirmed the prescription had never been filled there. She returned to the restaurant and obtained its private dining records. Celeste had met there repeatedly with Dr. Nolan Price, Evelyn's recently hired specialist. Sarah photographed the bookings and brought everything to the police. Investigators discovered Price had been paid through a company controlled by Celeste. The false medicine was designed to worsen Evelyn's heart rhythm slowly, making her death appear natural. Celeste expected Adrian to inherit the family empire and marry her afterward. By dawn, she and the doctor were arrested. Adrian found Sarah asleep on a bench at the central bus terminal, her paper bag beneath her head. The man who could buy almost anything understood the cost of distrusting someone who had asked for almost nothing. He knelt before her and apologized. Sarah demanded no revenge or reward. She only asked whether Evelyn was safe. Evelyn recovered and the pills were removed before causing permanent damage. Adrian fulfilled his promise, but he did not stop after 1 week. He paid Sarah's tuition directly to the nursing college and arranged a modest apartment near campus. Sarah refused a mansion, saying she wanted a life built with her own hands. 2 years later, she graduated at the top of her class. Evelyn sat in the front row crying with pride while Adrian held the same worn paper bag Sarah had carried into his home. He framed it as proof that courage can arrive in packaging the world overlooks. Sarah eventually opened a mobile clinic for homeless women and caregivers. She named it after her mother and gave every volunteer one rule: listen before judging. On opening day, Evelyn cut the ribbon from her wheelchair. The first patient was a frightened waitress carrying her belongings in a grocery bag. Sarah did not ask what mistakes she had made. She opened the door, offered her a warm meal, and told her she was safe. If Sarah's courage touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who still believes compassion can change a life, and subscribe to Loyal Hearts. Your support helps stories like this reach people who may desperately need hope tonight. Before this story ends, please comment. Kindness sees what pride ignores. So we know you stayed with Sarah until the final moment. Sarah asked for a roof for 7 nights, but what she gave in return could never be measured in money. She saved Evelyn's life, exposed a betrayal, and reminded an entire family that a person without a home is not a person without value. Years later, whenever rain struck the clinic windows, Sarah remembered the night she stood outside the hospital with nowhere to sleep. Then she looked at the warm beds and open doors she had created for others, and understood that sometimes the shelter we beg for becomes the shelter we are destined to build.